Back tomorrow. I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in to the Capitol.
Right now, you can see the mainstream media is really pushing this narrative of how Trump incited this riot at the Washington Capitol. My thing is very simple. Because what he actually said was deleted, and if you missed it in real time, you don't know exactly what he said. But it's a fact the media is known to manipulate the things that he does say. So people like me are skeptical with the narrative being pushed. What really happened? And was it already obvious that other people were perpetuating this act in the first place? If that is being said, how can Trump be held so accountable when we see so many others planting these narratives to incite these people to do these outlandish behaviors? Stay tuned to the end for the rest of my commentary.
So on the 6th, we saw all of these different wings of the right. QAnon adherents, Christian dominionists, MAGA people, like normal, like just hardcore supporters of the president. And we saw out and out neo-Nazis getting closer and closer wound together over their mutual desire to overthrow the elected government, which they all see as illegitimate. They all want to do violence to their political enemies. You can see shades of it within Rush Limbaugh.
There cannot be a peaceful coexistence of two completely different theories of life, theories of government, theories of how we manage our affairs.
Tucker Carlson.
Where we allowed BLM and Antifa to destroy our country in George Floyd's name. How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles decided they had to maintain order when no one else would?
They've all been urging different chunks of this and been getting people more and more comfortable with the idea of trying to overthrow the government in order to stop the left.
They have been trying to provoke a race war.
They're coming for you and your neighborhood. We're all going to have to defend ourselves.
Antifa mob saying that if you don't give us power, we're going to keep terrorizing your cities.
They want to destroy America.
We want Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump!
It took a village to make this happen.
It's a whole lot going on. Now, I'm not trying to defend Trump or say that he didn't incite a riot, because part of my thing with Trump is that he has to be accountable for some of the things that he does say, regardless of his intent. Even if he doesn't intend for it to be interpreted the way it is, he has to realize the things that he says can incite certain people to do certain things. However, like I was saying before, we have all this imagery and all these reportings that would show that what we saw at the Capitol was building up over time. And people like me can't help but observe how different the response is when it comes to these Antifa, these Proud Boys, and people like Black Lives Matter. Do you think it would have progressed as far as it was if it was a whole bunch of brown-skinned people out there behaving as such? I specifically recall seeing a live from Lovely T in which it was a protest on some bridge in Minnesota in which they shut down the bridge to arrest people. So you want me to think that if it was in a different situation and if it was a Black Lives Matter riot, for example, the result wouldn't be more tragic. So to me, I just have to side-eye everything, question everything that I'm told, because you cannot trust what the media is saying.
The far right and white supremacist movements for a few years now. since the beginning of the pandemic. I noticed this immediate sort of gathering in online spaces of people who were very against government shutdowns, calling these actions tyranny and organizing themselves into various groups.
The so-called Wolverine Watchmen were furious over coronavirus shutdowns.
The group calls itself Women for America. Organizers call for a full reopening.
A new group called Save Our Country, which is all about lobbying for a quick opening of the economy.
Right after the election, we get a very large Facebook group called
Stop the Steal.
Stop the Steal.
Stop the Steal, a group with some 360,000 members
aimed at delegitimizing the election process.
The page was filled with false claims about voter fraud and called for boots on the ground to protect the integrity of the vote.
We did see protests with the same name popping up in various state capitals.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! We want justice! We want justice! If you think you will attack our Constitution, you've got another big.
There's this interlocking network of right-wing thought leaders who have been, for years, increasingly pushing for violence on behalf of this insurgent conservative movement.
But now it's time to act on the enemy. People need to have their battle rifles and everything ready at their bedsides. This is it.
I'd put the heads on pikes, right? I'd put them at the two corners of the White House as a warning to federal bureaucrats. That's how you won the revolution.
What can you and I do to a state legislator besides kill them? Although we should not do that. I'm not advising that, but I mean, what else can you do, right?
When you start seeing that language being taken very literally on social media and different forums, to me, that's a very clear red flag. For example, this one post from this website called My Militia, which I've been following for a while now. Somebody writes, I say, take the hill or die trying. I don't know how much more explicit you can be. Posts and comments, even on Instagram, saying violence is necessary. And these are just, two examples of a sentiment that has been expressed over and over.
A lot of Trump supporters do believe in the Pizzagate conspiracies. And it didn't help that Trump kind of co-signed these conspiracies. So the fact that a lot of these conspiracy theories are being directly associated with Trump is a little bit biased. To me, if you just look at the whole picture, all these people are going to be serving one agenda. Their roles may be different, but the agenda is one and the same. So how can you really trust what the media is telling us? What are your comments? Do you feel like Trump really incited this riot? Or do you think that we have witnessed all these sequence of events that have led up to what we saw? Do you feel like the reaction would have been different if it was a different organization storming into the White House? Or do you side with some of these conspiracies that all these events that we see on public domains are staged events and all these people are working hand in hand? Leave your comments below. Make sure you like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.
No one has any excuse to be surprised by what happened on the 6th. It was signposted in places like Salem. I mean, I had my hand broken by a Proud Boy at a massive 1,000-person street fight that the police didn't even show up at. One of the key organizers of the left-wing counter-protest to unite the right. She was assaulted by a mob of neo-Nazis.
We are penned in. We are surrounded on all sides.
One of the people in that mob who assaulted her, he's a popular white nationalist live streamer.
We're standing up for our rights. We're proud to be white.
He was present at the Capitol on the 6th, inciting people to storm the Capitol.
Dude, we're in the Capitol right now.
When you're asking about what were the signs, how did this develop, it developed exactly the way that anti-fascist activists have been warning it has been for years. These people are drawing a movement to them and inciting violence around the country, and eventually it will burst in some way that's too big to ignore. And it finally did.